भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 11. Lord Ramachandra rules the world. Text number 2. Potre adadat disham prachim. Potre dadat disham prachim. Potre dadat disham prachim. Brahmane dakshinam Prabhu. Brahmane dakshinam Prabhu. Brahmane dakshinam Prabhu. Adhvaryave pratichi va. Adhvaryave pratichim va. Adhvaryave pratichim va. Uttaram samagaya saha. Uttaram samagaya saha. Uttaram samagaya saha. Hotre dadat disham prachim. Brahmane dakshinam Prabhu. Adhvaryave pratichim va. Uttaram samagaya saha. Hotre dadat disham prachim. Brahmane dakshinam Prabhu. Adhvaryave pratichim va. Uttaram samagaya saha. Hotre dadat disham prachim. Brahmane dakshinam Prabhu. Adhvaryave pratichim va. Uttaram samagaya saha. Hotre dadat disham prachim. Brahmane dakshinam Prabhu. Adhvaryave pratichim va. Uttaram samagaya saha. Hotre, unto the Hota priest who offers oblations. Adadat, gave. Disham, direction. Prachim, the whole eastern side. Brahmane, unto the Brahma priest who supervises what is done in the sacrificial arena. Dakshinam, the southern side. Prabhu, Lord Ramachandra. Adhvaryave, unto the Adhvaryu priest. Pratichi, the whole western side. Va, also. Uttaram, the northern side. Samagaya, unto the Udgata priest who sings the Sama Veda. Saha, he, Lord Ramachandra. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Ramachandra gave the entire east to the Hota priest, the entire south to the Brahma priest, the west to the Advaryu priest, and the north to the Udgata priest, the reciter of the Samaveda. In this way, he donated his kingdom. Please repeat the translation. Lord Ramachandra gave the entire east to the Hota priest, the entire south to the Brahma priest, the west to the Advaryu priest, and the north to the Udgata priest, the reciter of the Samaveda. In this way, he donated his kingdom. Text 3, 4 and 5. I'll read by myself. Text 3. Acharyaya dadau shesham yavati bhustadantara manyamana idam kritsnam brahmanorhati nisprihaha. Translation. Thereafter, thinking that because the Brahmanas have no material desires, they should possess the entire world, Lord Ramachandra delivered the land between the east, west, north and south to the Acharya. Text 4. Iti ayam ityayam tad alankara vasobhyam avasheshitaha tatharagnapi vaidehi somangalyavasheshita. Translation. After thus giving everything in charity to the Brahmanas, Lord Ramachandra retained only his personal garments and ornaments. And similarly, the queen, Mother Sita, was left with only her nose ring and nothing else. Text 5. Te tu brahmana devasya vatsalyam vikshya samstutam prita klina dhiyastasmai pratyarpyedam bhabashire. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. All the Brahmanas who were engaged in the various activities of the sacrifice were very pleased with Lord Ramachandra, who was greatly affectionate and favorable to the Brahmanas. Thus, with melted hearts, they returned all the property received from him and spoke as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the previous chapter, it was said that the prajas, the citizens, strictly followed the system of varnashrama dharma. The Brahmanas acted exactly like Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas exactly like Kshatriyas, and so on. Therefore, when Lord Ramachandra gave everything in charity to the Brahmanas, being qualified, wisely considered that Brahmanas are not meant to possess property to make a profit from it. The qualifications of a Brahmana are given in Bhagavad Gita 18.42. Shamo damas tapas shaucham chantirarjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, wisdom, knowledge, and religiousness. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work. The Brahmanical character offers no scope for possessing land and ruling citizens. These are the duties of a Kshatriya. Therefore, although the Brahmanas did not refuse Lord Ramachandra's gift, after accepting it, they returned it to the king. The Brahmanas were so pleased with Lord Ramachandra's affection toward them that their hearts melted. They saw that Lord Ramachandra, aside from being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was fully qualified as a Kshatriya and was exemplary in character. One of the qualifications of a Kshatriya is to be charitable. A Kshatriya or ruler levies taxes upon the citizens not for his personal sense gratification, but to give charity in suitable cases. Dhanam Ishvara Bhavaha. On one hand, Kshatriyas have the propensity to rule, but on the other, they are very liberal with charity. When Maharaj Yudhishthira gave charity, he engaged Karna to take charge of distributing it. Karna was very famous as Data Karna. The word Data refers to one who gives charity very liberally. The kings always kept a large quantity of food grains in stock, and whenever there was any scarcity of grains, they would distribute grains in charity. A Kshatriya's duty is to give charity, and a Brahmana's duty is to accept charity, but not more than needed to maintain body and soul together. Therefore, when the Brahmanas were given so much land by Lord Ramachandra, they returned it to him and were not greedy. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these verses describe Lord Ramachandra performing sacrifice according to the directions of the Vedas. The king, Kshatriya king, is supposed to perform sacrifices for the welfare of all the citizens, for obtaining all the necessities required for the kingdom from the devatas through offering sacrifices. This is described by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 3rd chapter. That the demigods are in charge of supplying the necessities for the human beings. But the human beings should offer sacrifice to the demigods in order to get their necessities. Now in Kali Yuga, particularly because people are not engaged in properly doing their duty to offer sacrifice, therefore there is scarcity. Otherwise, by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord through the agents called devatas, the supply will be plenty. So especially in this Kali Yuga, people should perform Sankirtan Yajna, because there is a lack of qualified Brahmanas to perform the Vedic sacrifices as given in the original scriptures. A Vedic sacrifice requires 4 kinds of qualified priests that is mentioned in the second verse. Hotre adadat disham prachim. Hota priest. Then the second kind of priest is called Brahma priest. The third kind of priest is called Advaryu priest. The fourth kind of priest is called Udgata priest. They have specific roles in a Vedic sacrifice. The Hota priest is the one who offers oblations into the sacrificial fire. The Brahma priest, he supervises the entire Vedic sacrifice. So he is the topmost expert, Brahma priest. Advaryu, he makes all the arrangements for the sacrifice. The place, the sacrificial fire, the ingredients required for the sacrifice, the arrangements, everything is taken care of by the Advaryu priest. Then the Udgata priest is the one who chants the mantras exactly according to the meter and accent. Unless it is properly chanted, the mantra will not be effective. So, Vedic mantras are to be chanted by duly qualified Brahmanas. That's the reason in Kali Yuga it is forbidden to perform Vedic sacrifices, because there are no qualified Brahmanas who can chant the mantras. Neither people have the means to make proper arrangements for offering a Vedic sacrifice. Vedic sacrifice requires huge quantities of so many ingredients. Exactly whatever is mentioned has to be offered. You cannot have substitutes. We see nowadays, if you call a ritualistic priest, he comes to make the sacrifice, to offer the sacrifice as part of some ritual. Then he makes so many substitutions. He does not bring all the ingredients. Neither people can secure all the ingredients. Even the wood that is used for burning the fire, depending on which sacrifice is being performed, for what purpose, a particular wood of a particular tree has to be procured. So formerly, they would go to the forest and gather the ingredients. If the wood of a jackfruit tree is required, they'll have to go and search out for the wood of a jackfruit tree. Jackfruit tree, of course, those days was easily available because every house had fruit trees. Wood of a mango tree, okay, not difficult to get. But wood of some particular tree which is only available in the forest. So they have to go searching for the tree. They should have knowledge of that kind of tree. So this making arrangements for the sacrifice itself is a big endeavor. In the Vedic times, so there used to be this endeavor to gather the ingredients, to select the proper place for the sacrifice. It cannot be performed. For example, a sacrifice cannot be done where the place is very windy. Common sense. You can understand. How will they burn the fire? So, like this, so many arrangements. If the sacrifice requires that they have to offer gold, then where will they get this gold, especially in this age? when Yudhishthira had to perform sacrifice, then there was no money left in the treasury of the government. So then he sent Arjuna to fetch wealth. And Arjuna was perplexed. Where will he go and find this wealth? This huge amount of wealth required for this huge sacrifice. So then Krishna directed Arjuna that somewhere in the Himalayas, a particular place, formerly one king, he performed a sacrifice in which he had gathered a lot of gold, and he gave away that gold in dakshina to the performers of the sacrifice. Just like here we see Ramachandra giving away all the land to the performers of the sacrifice. So that king gave away huge quantities of gold to the performers of the sacrifice. So these priests, they are Brahmanas. What will they do with all this gold? They thought, who's going to carry all this gold back? So they just left behind that gold, and the king will never touch that gold, what he has given in dakshina, in charity, dana. So the gold was left there. That place was selected for performing the sacrifice. After the sacrifice was over, everybody left the place and went away. That's all. So Krishna knew that huge quantities of gold which are given in charity was still lying in that place. So he sent Arjuna to that place to fetch all that gold. So Arjuna went to that place and brought back all that gold. And for what purpose did he bring? To be offered in sacrifice, not for himself becoming rich or making his brother rich. No, for offering in sacrifice. Ultimately, sacrifice means to offer to Vishnu. Sacrifice means to offer to Vishnu. Why? Because everything belongs to Vishnu. Isha vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Tena tyaktena. See, everything belongs to Krishna or Vishnu. So everything should be offered to Vishnu. At least, if everything cannot be offered, what is the minimum duty of offering in a sacrifice? That much at least should be offered. And to whom should be offered? Offered to Vishnu. And Vishnu is offered in a traditional Vedic sacrifice through the Devatas. Because the Devatas are agents, so we take from the Devatas whatever our necessities. Just like the sun is supplying sunshine. So sunshine is the energy that is sustaining life on all the planets. So everybody's life is sustained by sunshine. So they should actually offer sacrifice to the sun god. At least a human being should do. And human society, since everybody is not expert in every single department, so the Brahmanas who are expert in how to offer sacrifice should actually help the other people to perform sacrifices. They should actually, that's why the priests are required. Even the Kshatriya, he will perform a sacrifice under the direction and guidance and the help of the expert priests, Hota, Brahma, Advaryu, Udgata. So this is a Vedic sacrifice. Now since this sacrifice cannot be properly offered in Kali Yuga, doesn't mean that because it cannot be offered, one doesn't do sacrifice. The recommended sacrifice is chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Therefore, everyone should chant the holy name of Krishna and thereby offer sacrifice to Vishnu. And in that way, they should perform their basic minimum duty. So because people are not doing their duty of offering sacrifice to Vishnu, especially the Sankirtan Yajna, therefore there is so much of scarcity in Kali Yuga. Ironically, in Kali Yuga, in our country, at least in India, the grain production many years is so huge that the Food Corporation of India does not have enough go-down space to even stock those grains which they procure from the farmers who grow in excess. So one report said, I read this in the newspaper some years back, that the Food Corporation of India reported that the grain collection, procurement of that grains grown by the Food Corporation of India was some millions of tons, whatever. And then they said about 30% of that procured could not be properly stored because of lack of go-down space. And that was simply rotting in the open yard where the wagons were transporting from the place they procured to the location of the godowns, and it was exposed to sun and rain and wind and all that, and 30% of the procured grain was wasted. So there is no scarcity of grains, but does it mean everyone in the country, because there is no scarcity of food grains, is everybody is getting at least their 2 square meals? No. So many people go hungry in this country. They don't get food grains. Always. So this is because, not because there is insufficient food grains being grown, and because ours is a punya bhumi, tapo bhumi. There are so many terms describing this Bharat Varsha. So therefore, to grow food grains is not difficult in this country. It's not difficult. But to ensure the distribution of food grains, that requires a proper government or a proper king, proper ruler. So there has to be arrangement how these food grains can be distributed. So one of the ways food grains are distributed is through the king arranging for giving away food grains, as is mentioned by Prabhupada in the purport. The king always kept a large quantity of food grains in stock, and whenever there was any scarcity of grains, they would distribute grains in charity. Of course, charity is given only to the Brahmanas. But even if the others who may be in need of food grains do not have food grains, then the king would give them grains, whoever has any scarcity. Not as charity, not as dana, but as daya, compassion, mercy. So in any case, the king would stock food grains in large quantity and distribute them when in times of need. Now the government is actually unable to distribute, even though their intention, the Food Corporation of India intention is that when there is need, the grains can be distributed to the needy people. But they don't have the system, effective system in place. Some system is there, but it is not effective. So why is it that even though the intention is there, so much grains are being grown, Now, according to the law of nature, which is the law of God, Krishna, everyone gets what is their need according to the sacrifice they perform. So the people, if they don't perform their duty of offering sacrifice, then they will not get their necessities. They will not get their necessities. So therefore, somebody who goes hungry ultimately cannot blame anybody else. They themselves are responsible. They themselves are responsible. Even though it is the duty of the government to ensure, the king or the ruler, to ensure that people in need of grains should be supplied with grains. But if somebody is not fortunate enough to have a ruler who is properly carrying on the administration, like Lord Ramachandra or King Yudhishthira, like in the Vedic times, then they cannot depend in times of need upon the king or the government. Then they have to suffer that scarcity. So that's their misfortune, because they are not doing their duty of offering sacrifice. Otherwise, if people perform sacrifice as given in the scriptures, as directed in the scriptures, then there will be no scarcity. Nobody will face any scarcity. There will be plenty. Everyone will have plenty. So, it is important that people perform their duty of offering sacrifice, especially the householders. Householders must perform sacrifice. So here the description is given that Ramachandra performed the sacrifice and he gave away in charity all the land that was possessed by him as the king. So he gave the entire eastern portion of the land to the Hota priest, the entire southern portion to the Brahma priest, the western portion to the Advaryu priest, and the northern portion to the Udgata priest. So 4 specialized priests, he gave away 4 directions, whatever land was there. And what about the land left in between these 4 directions? That he delivered to the Acharya. Acharya is the spiritual master who actually does not involve himself in these rituals of the sacrifice or any other performances, religious performances, but rather the Acharya is expert in the scriptures to give directions to everyone, including the king, of the spiritual aspects of the religious rituals. So that Acharya was given the land in between the east, west, north and south. So Ramachandra was left with nothing. So after giving in charity to Brahmanas, what did Ramachandra retain? He retained only his personal garments and the ornaments, his whatever he was wearing. And the queen, Mother Sita, she was left with only her nose ring, 1 piece, as a token of her being the queen and the wife of the king. So she retained only that nose ring, and everything else she gave away. it is described in the Ramayana that even when Ramachandra was traveling, sometimes when he had to cross the river, so the boatman had to be given something in exchange for that service. So Ramachandra had nothing to give. So then Sita Devi, she gave one of her own ornaments, and Ramachandra gave that to the boatman. So Sita Devi was used to this, not that only when Ramachandra was coronated as the emperor or the king, and then she participated in sacrifice and gave away her ornaments. So this was the ideal taught by the emperor, the king, and the queen who were ruling the kingdom. So the Brahmanas engaged in this sacrifice. They were very pleased with Lord Ramachandra, who was greatly affectionate and favorable to the Brahmanas. The king, even though he is very, very powerful, but still he is very submissive and humble in front of the Brahmanas. So with melted hearts, they returned all the property received from him and spoke as follows. So, how can they return? Actually, charity accepted cannot be returned according to the scriptural directions. So the return means they directed Ramachandra to rule, because Ramachandra is a Kshatriya. They are the Brahmanas. Brahmanas don't rule. So they asked Lord Ramachandra, the king, to rule on their behalf. So that's how they were not accepting to rule the kingdom. Neither they are meant to rule the kingdom. They are not meant to rule the kingdom. So they returned all the property in this way. And Prabhupada says elaborately in the purport that the Brahmanas have got certain qualifications by which they are called Brahmanas. The Kshatriyas have qualifications by which they are called Kshatriyas. And this is briefly given in the Bhagavad Gita in just one verse. Shamo damastapa shaucham kshantirarjamam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Shama means control of the mind. This is the first qualification of the Brahmana, controlled mind. Without mind control, there is no possibility of anybody leading a regulated life. In Kali Yuga, Srila Prabhupada says, the duration of life is shortened because of irregular habits of the people in general. This is very easy to understand, not difficult. All of us know that it's very, very difficult for people in Kali Yuga to have regular habits. Most of the people suffer from different kinds of bodily ailments, poor health condition, also because of irregular habits. That also Prabhupada mentions in another purport. Says the people suffer from various diseases only because of irregular habits. Only because of irregular habits. So, why irregular habits? Why no regular habits? Because the mind is uncontrolled. Without mind control, one cannot have regular habits. And what is the way to control the mind? Of course, there are people who know that they are unable to control their mind, therefore they don't have regular habits. But they come and ask, what is the way to control the mind? So Krishna speaks about mind control in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna, after hearing Krishna's description of mind control, Arjuna says, very difficult to control the mind. Chanchalam hi manak Krishna pramathi balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. It's very, very difficult to control the mind. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us an easy method of controlling the mind through chanting and hearing the Hare Krishna mantra, through japa. Through japa, one can actually control the mind. Very, very easy way. So, we cannot have an excuse that it's difficult to control the mind. In Kali Yuga, while the other methods of mind control, like the Ashtanga Yoga practice or the Jnana Yoga or the Karma Yoga, Yoga Indriya Samyama. Yoga is meant primarily to begin with for controlling the senses and the mind. So since these other yoga systems are impractical or difficult to perform in Kali Yuga, the scriptures say, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama iva kevalam. Kalau nastyaiva, nastyaiva, nastyaiva gatiranyatha. Kali Yuga, there is no other way of controlling the mind or controlling the senses than chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Nama. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that easy method. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's munificence, benevolence is that not only you will be able to control your mind if you chant Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very kindly gifts us Krishna Prema if we properly chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. He gifts actually. It's not giving, it is gifting. The Krishna Prema, love for Krishna, if we simply agree to chant Hare Krishna mantra. So, chanting, first of all, helps us to control the mind, Shamo, Damo. Dhamma is controlling the senses, even sense control also. By engaging in the senses in the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, beginning with chanting Hare Krishna, we can actually control the senses. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Another definition of bhakti given by Narad Muni is that bhakti means to engage the senses in the service of Krishna. So, if that is also the way of effectively controlling the senses, especially in this Kali Yuga. Tapaha means engaging in austerity. The simplest austerity given for us. Austerity means to undertake some inconvenience, to tolerate inconvenience for this body and mind and the senses in order to offer in sacrifice to the Supreme Lord as our duty, as our responsibility. So this tapasya has been also simplified, that you simply abstain from 4 kinds of sinful activities. Because there are so many varieties of sinful activities somebody may do. So if generally it was told, avoid sinful activities, which is the instruction in the scriptures, avoid sinful activities. But if people are told avoid sinful activities, it will be impossible for them to avoid all sinful activities. So the tapasya recommended for everyone in Kali Yuga is avoid 4 kinds of grievous sinful activities. Very, very dangerous sinful activities. Meat eating, intoxication, gambling and illicit sex. Why these 4 have been singled out? Because these are the places where Kali Purusha resides. So Kali Purusha resides in these 4 places, which means that the evil influence of Kali is going to ruin our life if we don't abstain from these 4 sinful activities. And we can see that already happening. As Kali Yuga progresses, it will be more pronounced, this evil influence of Kali. So therefore, the tapasya has been simplified for our own good, for our own welfare, for our comfortable living in this world, that abstain from these 4 grievous type of sinful activities and chant Hare Krishna. This is the tapasya recommended in Kali Yuga. That's all. The minimum tapasya, of course. Then shaucham, cleanliness. Cleanliness is also required. For a spiritualist, cleanliness is absolutely essential. So, cleanliness is made possible by, first of all, beginning to chant Hare Krishna, by which a person is able to control the mind and the senses, and thereby gradually become cleansed internally to be able to also maintain external cleanliness. Otherwise, for people in Kali Yuga, even to take a bath is very, very difficult. This is Kali Yuga. So, all these rules to be followed or principles to be followed becomes very easy if people chant Hare Krishna. Everything becomes easy. Shanti, tolerance, even all these qualities are very easily developed or awakened by chanting Hare Krishna. Arjavam, simplicity, not being duplicitous. And Jnanam, knowledge, not exactly material knowledge, but spiritual knowledge. That is specifically the sense in which this is used, Jnanam. Knowledge of matter and spirit and the controller of both, Krishna. This is knowledge. Then Vijnanam, the application of this knowledge. Theoretical knowledge one may learn or one may know or understand, but to apply that knowledge is important. That is called Vijnanam. Astikyam. Astikyam means faith in the scriptures, in the Vedic scriptures. Faith in the Vedic scriptures is called Astikyam. So this also is lacking in Kali Yuga. Faith in the Vedic scriptures. They call it mythology. Mythology means something that is not true, that's not fact. But Vedas are 100% true, factual. Nothing is mythological in the Vedas. So, to have faith in the scriptures, all this is possible simply by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord in Kali Yuga. So I'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.